Right, I say we get started. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Sounds good.
All right. Hello to the 7 of you joining us for this session. Today we'll be talking about litigation analytics. My name is Oscar Cobos. I am a practice area consultant in the Phoenix area. I oversee 3 law schools in my territory, as well as 3 law firms. And we're joined today by Jack Stee, a colleague of mine. So I'll turn it over for a brief intro, and then we'll get started.
Hey everyone, I am Jack. I am the BPAC in Oregon. I cover the 3 Oregon law schools as well as firms in Portland, Oregon. We're going to be covering, as Oscar said, litigation analytics, and specifically I will be going over 2 frequently asked questions to clarify anything for y'all.
All right, so let's get going. I'm sharing my screen now, so you should be seeing that here in a second or 2. Right now, I am on the legal research homepage, and so you're probably wondering, well, how do I access litigation analytics? It's pretty simple. On the left-hand side in our experience doc, the 3rd icon down is the one we're looking for. So I will access that one. And before we launch into this, you're probably thinking, well, what is litigation analytics? And that's a really good question. And this is the process by which you're incorporating data into your decision-making. So this affects law firms and attorneys, in the process of litigation, whether it's forecasting or maybe, altering your legal strategy and maybe how you apply your resources in a particular matter. So with that being said, there's a ton of useful tools that you can use, but let's start off with litigation analytics. You'll notice I have a search box similar to the legal research homepage, and you can insert a court, judge, attorney, or law firm here. And so let's just insert Texas, and then you'll note here, the dropdown gives me the option to limit my search to these particular subjects here, but I'm not going to limit it at this time. I'm just going to run this search, and simply when I run Texas, I'm going to get all 4 of their district courts. So that's super helpful. Let's say maybe this is the first case you have in the state of Texas, and you've never really put much attention to their court system. Well, right off the bat, you see there are 4 district courts there. Moving over to the right, we can see the federal district court judges. I can see that there are at least 94 of them. And of course, you see a number there of the cases that they have. If I scroll down a little bit, you'll have access to state trial courts and state trial court judges. And so these links are live. You can absolutely click on those and be taken to a profile on that particular court or judge, but I won't do that for the sake of time. And then lastly, at least on this page, you have access to law firms and attorneys as well. So again, you can click into these, or you could also see all results to see what that pops up for you. And now let me go back to the litigation analytics homepage, and let's talk about these 2 tools here, the compare courts and judges and compare counsel. Now, they are very similar, and there's only one big difference. Both of them cover federal district courts only. So keep that in mind, federal district courts. On the compare counsel side, you will be able to see a section on party roles. So for example, if you were to compare 2 law firms and 2 attorneys, or 4 law firms, whatever it may be, you would be able to see the party roles. And what I mean by that is, were they on the plaintiff side? Were they on the defendant side? And that'll make sense here in a little bit once I show you the example, even though we're going to be looking at courts and judges. So when you click into one of these options, you'll be brought to a page like this. And here you will be able to compare anywhere from 2 to 4 district courts and or judges. You can mix and match. And on the counsel side, either law firms or attorneys. So it's totally up to you. If you select one of these boxes, you can begin typing, and the system will begin populating options for you. So here I've selected James O. Browning, a judge in New Mexico, just to show you what that looks like. And so if I inserted another court or another judge, I could simply select compare courts and judges, and I will pull up a report that we're going to see shortly. But I'm not going to do that comparison with Judge Browning. I'm going to show you the example already in the system. And so when I do that, this page pulls up. And here we are comparing the following: the Southern District of Texas, Judge Allison, Judge Gilmore, and Judge Brown, all of the Southern District of Texas. So once I scroll down, The first section I am going to see is the cases filed by year. This is helpful because it allows you to see how busy these courts and or judges are. You'll notice at the bottom, there's a breakdown of the numbers of cases that were filed in front of them each year. And so just from a quick glance, it looks like Judge Brown is probably the newest member of the bench out of this group. And so again, this information can be useful in a lot of different scenarios. And interestingly, there haven't been any cases filed with Judge Gilmore. So these links are live, you can access them, but we'll wait towards the end of my portion of this presentation to show you what that looks like. So once you scroll down, you're going to see another section called cases by type. This will break down a ton of practice areas for you and can be really useful in a lot of different scenarios. Just one that comes to mind is the recusal of judges. Maybe you don't want to be in front of Judge Brown, you prefer Judge Ellison. So in this scenario, let's look at the bankruptcy practice area. Here, Judge Brown has 3 bankruptcy cases that are open and 4 that are terminated. Again, remember above, we saw odds are, just from a very brief analysis of this information, it looks like Judge Brown is newer to the bench. And so if I were in front of Judge Brown, I might have to explain the bankruptcy code a little bit more than if I were in front of Judge Allison, who has 5 open cases and 119 that have been terminated. So just something to consider here, because you can absolutely use all of this information to, in a sense, forum shop if you're comparing courts, or you can also compare those judges to see who would you prefer to be in front of. And as you can see, we have a ton of practice areas here. I won't discuss those any further since I think you all probably get the gist of it. Now let's go look at 4 things here. We are giving you a timeline of key events in the litigation process, and there's 4 of these. One is the dismissal stage. The second one is the summary judgment stage. We have trial, and lastly, termination. Let me scroll up a bit and focus on the summary judgment chart. Here we are comparing, or we're giving you information on the summary judgment aspect of litigation. So at least in the Southern District of Texas, here's the range of how many days it took for cases to get to this stage. There are at least 7,251 cases that reach the summary judgment stage. Some of them were right away, done day one. Others took over 1,000 days, so close to 3 years to reach this stage. That's a long time, right? So this information would be useful to a client in a letter, just saying, hey, you're going to be paying my bills for the next 3 years if this is, the route we decide to take, or maybe to a partner explaining, hey, I think we should probably try and get rid of Judge Allison, or in this case, maybe Judge Gilmore, because it takes longer to get to this stage in front of her. The big boxes you see in the middle, that is where half of the data is. So that's the majority of the cases, at least with Judge Ellison, it's taking anywhere from 396 days to 584 to reach this stage. And so again, this is why this information can be super useful, because it can craft your strategy in the litigation process. And if you wanted more information on understanding the timing analytics and what all of this information means, you can access this link at the bottom of the chart, and that will give you a brief explanation of it all. Now, I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom and show you the damages section. So similar to all the links above, these are hot links. So when you click on one, it's going to take you to a read-only page on Lex Machina. And so here you'll be able to access some information on some of these cases where damages have been awarded in front of Judge Gilmore. You'll be able to see some of the parties, the judgment source, docket numbers, and these lofty amounts here. And so all that to say, that's a quick overview of litigation analytics. And so now I'll turn it over for some of our frequently asked questions.
All right. So I'm going to go over 2 main questions that we get from attorneys as well as law students. The first one is, does litigation analytics cover every state court? The answer is no. I do have a product court coverage list. If you would like it, please drop your email in the chat and I will send it your way. Now, why don't we cover every state court? That's simply because it's based on whether we do have the underlying docket information that is collected from Lex Machina, as Oscar just showed you right here, and from CourtLink. We either do or we do not have it. simple as that. The next question is, how much more information is available on Lex Machina versus litigation analytics on Lexis Plus? The answer is substantially more. Lex Machina is like the supersized version of litigation analytics, and litigation analytics on Lexis Plus provides that high level of insights about courts, judges, attorneys, law firms. And it's about being in the Lexis Plus ecosystem, but not the entirety of what Lex Machina provides. Now, when you have this add-on, whether if it's at a firm or wherever you work, as Oscar has pulled up the product switcher here, you will see a tab that will say Lex Machina, and that's how you know if you have it. So Lex Machina, like I said, is that supersized version of litigation analytics. It's going to provide even more data that you can deliver further analytics-based insights on everything that you're doing, from parties to expert witnesses. And it's a bit more outcome-oriented, such as resolutions, damages, findings, remedies, than litigation analytics provides. It uses both dockets and documents associated with those dockets to give you a rich, in-depth analytics assessment. It offers more and deeper filtering options than litigation analytics does. You have the option to do some case tags such as trial or medical malpractice, so you can even further your assessment, so that when you are giving the report back to your supervising attorney, a partner, or a client, it's more customized and it's in more depth, so that you can give the best option and be able to very thoroughly explain why you were going to go in what direction you were going to go in. If there are any further questions, please feel free to turn on your mic, shoot them in the chat, and otherwise, thank you so much for coming.